Okay, I've been driving for a very long time, many years actually, but one thing I still can't seem to do very well is parking. And I'll be very honest with this. I rarely ever do back in parking. Have you guys had any bad experiences while parking or in a parking lot? Put in the comments below. So without further ado, let's grab a blanket, turn off your lights for true scary parking horror stories that happen when you're just trying to park your car, man. Waiting in a parking lot. When I was 14 years old, I was waiting in a parking lot in my mother's truck. She was at her doctor's office, and I opted to stay behind to read in the back seat. Luckily for me, I was slightly paranoid as a child, and I locked all the doors. About 10 minutes after my mom went upstairs, a station wagon pulled into the lot and screeched to a stop right behind my truck. Literally parked across the rear of the truck, blocking it in. Out of the station wagon came a gray-haired old man. He quickly came to my door and grabbed the handle. He never made eye contact with me. I froze in place. I felt like I couldn't do anything. He started shaking the handle violently and pulling on the door. It was an old truck, so the door moved quite a bit. I was scared, thinking the door would fall or something like that. It was then I remembered my mother had left her dead cell phone in the front seat. I grabbed the phone and made a show of pretending to make a call, and the man looked up at me, then ran back to his car and took off. When my mother returned, she took me to the police station, and I gave them a description of the man in the car. They promised to call if they heard anything. About a week later, an officer called and informed us that the man had been caught. Apparently, he tried to get two 7-year-old twin boys into his car, and their father had seen it happening. The father ran up and hit the guy with a baseball bat while screaming at him to stay away from his kids. After the initial hit, he grabbed onto the guy and had a passerby call the police. I'm still glad that to this day, I had locked the doors of that truck. I was scared of staying behind alone in cars for a long time after that. In a parking lot at night. Let me preface this by saying that I grew up in a very safe area. Play outside with no parental supervision. Sure, let's go exploring in the woods. Walk your dog alone at 2 a.m. Safe. Most people I grew up with don't have the kinds of story that are posted on the subreddit. I have just this one. I recently turned 16 years old and was reveling in the freedom of being a newly licensed driver. After one of my soccer games, I made a spur-of-the-moment decision to swing by the mall on my way home just because I could. It was early in the fall, so when I got there, it was still fairly light outside. I parked far from the entrance, still a little nervous about parking next to other cars. I can't remember what I bought. I can't remember if I bought anything at all. I may have just wandered around aimlessly for a while. Teenagers are weird. Whatever the case, I know that by the time I was walking out the door, it was well past dusk. I now know that I was stupidly overconfident. There were almost no cars left in the parking lot at that point. Few mall goers were enthusiastic enough to stay until 9 p.m. on a Monday night. I began the long walk to my car by myself, walking down the aisle thinking about all the homework I still had to do. It took me a while to notice that there was a car behind me. I probably would have noticed it sooner if the headlights had been on. Still, I thought nothing of it. I was just walking rather close to the center of the aisle than I needed to be, so I assumed that the car just didn't have enough space to get by me in an empty parking lot, and graciously moved over. The car didn't pass me. The driver continued at my walking pace of less than 3 miles per hour following me. Okay, maybe he's looking for a parking spot or something. Except that he keeps passing empty spot after empty spot. Something clicked. I finally realized that this was creepy. I was afraid to turn around, to go back and try to find mall security because this creepy car was directly in my way. In my mind, My best option was to continue walking as though I didn't realize anything was weird, anything was happening at all. Get to my car and get the hell out of there. That was my best option. So, I kept walking, but I've moved my keys between my fingers and made a fist, in case I had to punch somebody. I never punched anybody in my life. I waited as long as possible before unlocking my car, so creepy car guy wouldn't know where my destination was. I kept trying to convince myself that I was overreacting to all of this. Finally, I'm about 2 feet from my car, I hit unlock, and my lights flash, giving me away. Creepy car immediately zooms into the spot directly next to mine. On the passenger side of the car, I am in the car. I'm closing my door as his door opens, and a hand reaches out and... I don't put my seatbelt on. I don't check that there's no one coming. I don't turn my headlights on. My key is in the ignition, and I am out of that spot so quickly. I think the rubber trail is still there to this day. Now, it's been several years since that incident. I no longer live in such a safe place. Still, after 6 years in a big city, I don't think I've ever felt quite as creeped out as I did that night. Dead-eyed baby daddy. This just happened the other night. Friend told me y'all might like it. So, I live in an apartment complex on the edge of a bad neighborhood. Our immediate area is pretty good. We have a church across the street, a retirement home next door, and a grade school on the other side of the street. The rest of the neighborhood for a couple blocks is normal middle-class homes. But sometimes, the area to the north of us leaks. Our complex is gated, but it does fuck all. Really, because anybody who wants to get in just waits until a resident opens the gate. I mean, it's whatever. What can you do? Usually, I park in the guest spot just outside the gate, but still inside the lot, because I leave for work crazy early, and I've been parked in before. Then I can't figure out who did it because everyone is asleep. So, I'm parking my car, get out, reach in my pocket to hit the opener, and I'm walking through the gate when out of nowhere, this silver SUV with dealer plates comes screaming into the gate blasting gangsta rap. Misses hitting me by about 6 inches, maybe less. I'm pissed and stunned and I yell out, "Bro, you almost hit me, look where you're going!" He turns the music down and opens the door, says, "What you say?" And I repeat myself. He's a Hispanic guy, probably in his early 20s, well-dressed, good-looking. He looks at me completely calm and conversational, just as if he was saying, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the 7-Eleven is?" And says, "I don't care. Don't you understand that? Your life is nothing to me. If you got a man up there, I'll slap the shit out of him right in front of you. Believe that." His eyes look completely dead, just calm and cold. That's what scared me, not what he said. He parked his car in the lot, music still blasting. It sits there for about 10 minutes when I hear the neighbor downstairs yelling at him to turn it down. The guy comes out of the apartment he was in, gets into his car, Kay turns into the parking lot and smashes his new ride right into my neighbor's car, then peels out of the parking lot. The police come and talk to everybody. The apartment he visited is a couple, their child and a roommate and her baby. The visitor is the father of the roommate's baby. The couple knew of him, but not who he was. The man answered the door and this dude just pushed his way in, made threats at his ex in the same calm manner, then came out, rammed the neighbor's car and left, all without breaking a sweat or raising his voice. The roommate explains she was with him for about a year, and he was as sweet as could be. She got pregnant, he disappeared, and when she took him to court for child support, she found out he had 11 other children by 10 different women, counting her. Now that's some Hannibal Lecter shit right there, and if this guy hasn't already killed someone, I fully believe he could. He did and said all this stuff so casually. First in the store, then in the parking lot. First time posting here, and luckily it's probably my only Let's Not Meet experience. When I was around 9 or 10 years old, In 1999, my family drove down to Las Vegas for a small little vacation or something. And for whatever reason, when in town, we stopped at a small strip mall to buy something from Kmart or some other store. My parents let me roam around the store by myself, and I was happy to look at some toys and movies and stuff I wanted to buy. But then I got to the magazine rack and saw the muscle mags, so I discreetly pulled down one of them and started looking through, feeling the electric charge of viewing something close to pornography. I should mention, I was raised Mormon, and about this time in my life, I was coming to realization that I'm gay. So I was looking at this mag discreetly. I know, a 9 to 10-year-old kid looking at a muscle mag isn't really discreet, but you know how the mind of a child works. I didn't want my parents to pop out of nowhere to see me looking at an immodest magazine, especially one with mostly naked men on it. So I was constantly peeking up from the mag to see if my family was anywhere close when I noticed a 30-something Asian man with glasses looking at me. I continued to go through the magazine, and he steps closer to me. He asked, "Do you like those types of magazines?" I simply responded, "Yeah, it's cool." He responded, "I've got more of those at home, if you like to look at them too." Now, having grown up Mormon and being a good DARE student, I knew the strangeness and danger present in this offer, so I told him something stupid like, no thanks, I'm just waiting for my brother. He took the cue and decided to back off. I stayed to look at the magazine a little longer then, afraid that he might tell my parents what I was looking at. I quickly left and started looking around for my family, trying to actually find them this time. I found them, and they went to stand in line to check out. As if nothing had happened, I decided it was boring. Plus, I think my mind was still racing at the possibility of him telling my parents, or them somehow finding out. So, I went out to the parking lot and waited by our family van. While I was standing there by the van in the parking lot, a car pulled up in the parking lot, and the window rolled down. I looked over, and it's the same guy from the store. He poked his head out and said, "Do you need a ride? Is your brother coming? I can take you to him." Luckily, at this moment, I saw my mom coming out of the store with my sisters in tow, so I told them, "Oh no, my mom is coming right now." He quickly raced off. So, even though it's so weird to think about it, I was totally almost abducted. Like, this guy was out there cruising for kids in the middle of the city, in the middle of a crowded store, and he actually engaged me. So creepy. Anyways, creepy pedo at Kmart. Let's not meet. Maria from jury duty. I create a separate Reddit account just to post on Letsnotmeet. So I am 19 years old, and yesterday was the first time I was summoned to jury duty. I was already running a little bit late to the courthouse to find the free parking for jurors, but ended up parking in an underground garage right across from the courthouse. It was really convenient, except for the $20 parking fee. The first floor of the parking garage is only reserved for high-ranking courthouse officials and police officers. This was visible to the street, and you could see it from the courthouse. The second and below was public parking, and there was no way you could see it from the street. To enter the parking lot, you would have to go around and in the back, which is just an empty street. Basically, if I were to run from my car to outside the garage, the only closest thing would be that street. And there was only one parking attendant in charge. I started to look for a staircase to lead me to the first floor. A woman an inch taller than me, I'm 4'11", approached me and asked if I was here for jury duty. I told her I was, so we both found the door for the staircase to go to the first floor. Maria was about 50 to 60 years old, with a thick accent, but spoke English fluently. We found the door that led into the staircase, and it was sketchy as hell. It was a halfway with little steps and sharp turns. The lights weren't as bright as I'd wished, and at each corner of the hallway had those big circle mirrors that will show you if someone is at each side of the hallway. We exited through and entered outside, where the higher officials parked. Now, I was getting a bit annoyed with the woman, Maria, because she would not stop talking about the most randomest shit. Things you wouldn't tell a stranger. Maria complained how it took her 10 years to become a US citizen, and now she's being repaid with having to show up for jury duty, then spoke about her life. She noticed that I did not have a cell phone, and commented about people my age are always glued to their phones. I told her I forgot my sister's phone in the car because I was in a rush, and that my phone was in a bag of rice. If I walked in front of her, she would ask me to slow down so she could follow me. She asked me if she could be with me the entire time during selection, and obviously I wanted to be alone, but I thought that maybe she was just nervous about being selected, and I didn't want to be rude, so I told her, yes, sure. In the elevator, we found out that we were stationed at different floors, so we said our goodbyes. During our break, I went back to the parking lot and got my phone. I pretty much sped walk outside through that hallway and was out of breath when I went outside. After selection, thankfully I was not chosen, I was waiting outside of the courthouse, and near the sidewalk that was across from the parking garage. I was texting one of my friends using the courthouse Wi-Fi. I hear someone yell out, "Yoo-hoo! Hello, girl!" And I look up to see Maria waving me to go over to her. She asked me how she could get back into the parking lot. I gave her directions and interrupted me. She asked me if I could walk with her back, because she was afraid of getting lost. The hallway was pretty sketchy to walk through, but it was a simple enter-exit strategy. Only one door to enter, another to exit. Maria then looked down and saw my phone, and she had this look of surprise, and it gave me an idea she did not want me to have a phone. That gave me a little weird feeling. Maybe she was annoyed, because I told her that I was waiting for a friend, and that I could not walk back with her like that. In reality, I wanted to finish my conversation with my friend. Maria then demanded that I should walk her to her car, because women her age could forget how to get to their location, and wasn't safe for her to walk alone. I was really annoyed at her demand, and knowing that there were police officers right across from us, and that they would be happy to walk her, and then she frowned at me and left. Now, after about 10 minutes, I decided to walk back into the parking garage. I was waiting to cross the pedestrian stoplights, and I saw a beat-up-looking van exit from the parking garage, and in the passenger side was Maria. A scruffy, intimidating-looking man was driving. I had my sunglasses on, and was looking down at my phone while looking at their van occasionally. I saw the look of them, and they both looked like they were arguing with each other inside the car. It wasn't until I saw a flash on Maria's side that I realized she took a photo of me with her flash on. Their van was partially tinted, and Maria's body was faced towards my way. The van literally sped through the red light once it happened, and despite the police presence, no one decided to chase after the van. I walked over to the group of police officers and told them about Maria and the man. One of them walked me back to my car, and another decided to look for the van, since they technically broke the law by driving through a red light. The police officer who walked me back told me that they couldn't really do anything, since nothing physically happened, but he got my name and home number in case they had any news. The entire drive back home, I kept wondering on what would have happened if I had walked Maria to her car. She made it seem like she drove there alone, but technically, I did not see her from her car. Maybe she wanted her husband to drive up and get her, and maybe he was just asleep in his car? We were in the courthouse from 7:45 a.m. to 4 p.m., and it would have been a waste of money if he went out on his way and paying twice to drop Maria off inside the parking lot, only to leave and then return again. I told my parents on the day's events, and my dad thought that they could have either kidnapped or robbed me. Maria did see me get out of my car, a Mercedes. Anyways, Maria, let's not ever meet again. I don't know what your main intentions were, but I'm glad you slipped through the cracks with your outburst, and for myself on wanting to take advantage of free Wi-Fi.